All right, MicroStrategy has just announced a purchase of 51,780 Bitcoin. That's $4.6 billion of the ATM that they're using. And what I want to just quickly discuss in this particular video is a strategy that's playing out here that's bigger than what a lot of people think, and how I think it may impact the market. And of course, as a result of that, all of this information is for you and for everybody to decide whether MicroStrategy is a potential allocation in your portfolio or not. That's what you should be thinking about here. You should be thinking about, do I need to get exposure to MicroStrategy because of what's happening here? So they bought another 52,000 Bitcoin basically, right? And they've run through their $42 billion, 21 of which was ATM. And again, ATM is selling their shares into the market, which is why you've seen a price depression on MSTR here over the last couple weeks. They've run through $7 billion in 2 weeks over here, right? And so what I wanted to talk about is, what does this mean for a potential bear market? And I want you to subscribe to the channel, because the conversation I want to have for the rest of this week is about what happens to the cycles. How valid are 4-year cycles? How valid is it to think that Bitcoin's going to have another 70-80% dip? What are the forces that are coming into the market that are basically subverting all of these things and may change what this cycle looks like? So subscribe to the channel for that. Follow if you haven't, because we're going to have that conversation all of this week. So here's what this means, right? They've basically guaranteed a $42 billion put option on the spot Bitcoin market, right? They've raised that capital and they said, we're going to be in the market buying $42 billion over the next 3 years. Now, clearly, based on the pace that they're going, $7 billion in 2 weeks, they're going to run through this in a year latest, right? This is a lot of capital, but they're going to run through it in a year latest. It's not going to take the 3 years to do this. And we're going to come over to what I think Saylor is going to do in the future after they run out of this ATM in a video tomorrow. So make sure you subscribe for that too. So assuming that you've got a $42 billion buying pace over an average of 252 trading days. And by the way I want to have this conversation is assuming that there's no other buyers in the market, assuming that the normal bull run retail buying doesn't happen, assuming that there is nobody else in the market buying besides Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. And I think that's really the smart way of looking at this to judge what sort of impact this can have in a bull run environment. Let's look at it besides all of that, without any of that first. So basically, if you have $42 billion over 252 trading sessions in a year, you basically got a bid in the market, a guaranteed purchase of $167 million every single day from one buyer, right? Now, how does that impact? If we take the daily mined Bitcoin, which is 450, and we add 30% on top of that for the selling float of people that already own coins, then you have 585 Bitcoin a day willing to be bought, right? Willing to be sold and willing to be acquired by someone new. Well, this gives us a floor price, because if you take that $167 million every single day divided by 585, this gives us a floor price of $285,000 a coin, right? Now, it doesn't immediately jump there, because we have to clear our OTC desk. There's selling going on in the market. There's more selling going on in the market at certain periods. Miners might be selling to raise capital. People want to sell to buy houses, whatever, right? This happens at these key moments, like all-time high, for example, then 100,000, for example, and then maybe, every sort of $10,000 until we, breach that at $200,000 a coin or whatever. I would say that there's going to be a sizable amount of selling volume coming in, because people are just sitting around going, hey, maybe I can buy a house, maybe I can buy a car, maybe I can pay for my kids here, or whatever, right? Whatever they want to, maybe I just take profits, right? Because they're not confident in the trade anymore. So, it's never going to jump immediately there. OTC desks are also going to be full and flush. It takes time to flush out these sales orders. But if we were looking at a straight average, then you're looking at an average of $285,000 floor price on Bitcoin, right? That's just from this one buyer. So when those OTC desks and everybody else is drained, you're going to see rapid rises, probably more rapid, I would say, in this cycle than we've been used to, in the previous cycle, and maybe even the 2017 cycle, right? Now, should that happen, MSTR's valuation, right? If we hit the 285, MSTR's valuation expands by rough estimate, because there's so many other factors involved here, by 3x as well, to $150 billion, right? So assuming there's no hysteria, no parabolic moves, no one else buying, and no bull run in essence coming, you're looking at a $285,000 floor price, MSTR expanding to 150 billion, those converts that they've, or the ATM at 21 and the convertible debt at 42, all being used up and paid back, Saylor can basically issue another $100 billion against the new valuation of $150 billion and do the same thing again. And that would now mean that we have a $100 billion put in the market, guaranteeing a floor price of $686,000 per coin for the next year. This is like, we run this from now to next November, get another 100 bill, and then we now have a floor price of $686,000 until November 2026, which would traditionally be known as the bear market, which is why I want to have the conversation about cycles and what's happening during cycles and how cycles are being impacted right now, and by the corporate finance side of what's going on in Bitcoin. Now, the scariest part about this is that when this happens, Wall Street will certainly get the message. Why? Well, because, you know, one of the things that I find quite interesting is everybody thinks that, you know, everybody in retail, we tend to think that everybody thinks like us. BlackRock doesn't think like retail. When BlackRock is deciding to go and attack an asset, which I've been saying for a year now, over a year, probably a year and a half now, that the ETF is in and the market has changed. And we're going to get Bitcoin is ESG friendly. Bitcoin is good for the environment. Bitcoin is good for everything. It's good for corporate treasury. It's good for the environment. It's good for making money. It's good for growing your wealth. It's good for everything, right? Because BlackRock's in the game, because they think holistically. And if you are thinking holistically like BlackRock, this is, of course, I'm about to go into a little bit of a conspiracy theory rant, so I don't want the doom and gloom boomers and the happy hippies and everybody else to get their panties in a twist, or the MSTR bears or anyone to get their panties in a twist. This is a conspiracy of mine, right? It is speculation of mine. But if I'm BlackRock and I want to take over this game, I do not want to think about this linearly. I do not want to say, hey, year one, we'll launch an ETF. Year two, we'll go acquire some miners. Year three, we'll get some options open. No, you see the whole chessboard, and you line the whole chessboard up, and then you go and attack immediately as aggressively as possible. And remember, out of all of these companies, the biggest shareholders, the two biggest shareholders of MicroStrategy are BlackRock and Vanguard. So when people were telling me that Vanguard is bearish on Bitcoin, they're not. They want to funnel that capital through MSTR. And so the way I look at it is this. So BlackRock has an ETF that's more successful than any ETF ever launched in human history. Options are coming on that ETF. So they have that flow happening, right? You've got retail institution that just needs to own the underlying asset. They can use the ETF. They can generate income. They can do speculation and hedging with the option side. They own all the miners, right? BlackRock owns every single miner, right? They own a significant portion of every single miner that's out there. So the miners are ready for play now too. Then you come over and you go, well, if you have the retail market, the institutional market, what is something else that will profit from Bitcoin performing the way that we want it to perform? Well, it's obviously the place that they buy that from. Where do they buy the Bitcoin from? They own Coinbase, right? And then it's, where does the custody happen? Well, it's Coinbase, so we got to own Coinbase. So you double have to own Coinbase. So they own Coinbase, one of the biggest shareholders in Coinbase. And then you look at it and you go, okay, so now we've got really the $100 trillion market of equities and commodities and everything else sort of tied up. What else is there? Well, there's this traditional 60-40 bond portfolio that hasn't been performing because it's 60% equities, 40% bonds. The bond side has been lagging. Well, we need a vehicle to attack the bond market with Bitcoin. And that's MSTR. In my opinion, MSTR is part of this BlackRock web of attack on Bitcoin, absolute domination of the Bitcoin industry, where you can now access $40 to $100 trillion of capital in the bond market and give it life again, give it returns again. And that's what I think is going on here. I think that this was, of course, Saylor's plan, but now this is a combination of corporate finance coming together and figuring out, okay, and by the way, in that world of bonds, there is no alternative to MSTR. It's not like I can buy the ETF, I can buy the spot, I can buy the options, I can buy the futures, I can buy MSTR, right? They don't have those options. I can buy bonds. That's it. And when you think about it like that, there is no alternative to MSTR. Why? Because it is the biggest, it is the safest, it's the most backed, it has got the most volatility, and that's what it's become. So MSTR, in my opinion, in my speculative conspiracy theory perspective, is the BlackRock missing piece to attack that speculative bond, to attack the bond market with Bitcoin. And therefore, we've had 3 years of MSTR proving, okay, look, we're going to take 800 million, we're going to take $1 billion, we're going to take a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, put it into Bitcoin, back all of that, and now they went straight to 42 billion? Like, you think that capital didn't come as a result of a few phone calls of, hey, listen, check out this track record, see what we've been building here, get behind this? You don't think that happened? Come on, this is an old boys club at the end of the day. So I think that MSTR is the vehicle, the part of the web. I was thinking about it, like, what is the part of the web for all of these parts of capital, where all of these pools of capital are? What is the part that attacks that $100 trillion worldwide bond market? It's MSTR, right? It's as simple as that. That is the BlackRock vehicle to getting this capital out of the bond market into Bitcoin. And of course, the beautiful thing about this is not like real estate, right? They're going to benefit, every chain, every arm in the BlackRock web benefits with every arm working. If more money goes into the ETF, the bond holders on MSTR benefit because the price of Bitcoin goes up, which increases the volatility over here. Then the miners benefit because the price goes up. Like, all of this is being set up here, and then you have the announcement that I believe is coming, that Howard Lutnick, the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, one of the 24 firms that can print money directly from the Federal Reserve, who stood up at the Bitcoin conference and said, and I quote, "We own a shit ton of Bitcoin." Cantor Fitzgerald, who's launching a Bitcoin lending facility at $2 billion a clip, comes out and tells you, yeah, we were going to put that guy as treasury. So now you have a fully aligned president, vice president, House, Senate, Treasury, everyone, all of the nominations have have their wealth, not all of it, but their wealth exposed to Bitcoin. This is how BlackRock works. This is how these people move. And I've been trying to tell you this since last year, that this is going to happen. So this is a web that's been created. This is a strategic web that has been created to attack and dominate the Bitcoin industry by corporate finance, by BlackRock in this game. There's no other way that I could see this. Again, it's speculation, but there's no other way that I could see this, and it's fucking exciting to see what's going on here. The beauty of Bitcoin is, unlike all these other assets like equities, is that you and I, if you don't believe in corporate finance, you think BlackRock's evil, you think whatever, you can still hold Bitcoin and just put it in your cold storage wallet and stay out of the game and benefit from what's going on. So this is what I think is happening. I think Saylor has just issued a put option on the market at $42 billion. I think the market sees it. Now the question is, what happens when Wall Street figures out what's going on here and they cease up selling, right? Because if they own everything, the miners stop selling, the ETF stops selling, everyone stops selling. What happens at that moment when they realize that Saylor can issue $100 billion in a year and do this whole thing over again, put a floor price in the quote-unquote bear market of $680,000 a coin? What the fuck happens here? This is why I'm trying to say, like, get to one Bitcoin as quick as possible, and time is fucking running out right now because we are at that limit. So, look, everything I just walked through is assumption that no other bull market forces take place. This is just Saylor. This is the moment that the S-curve is coming into play. This is what an adoption of an asset, a market saturation of an asset looks like when when capital from everywhere starts to move into one asset. So share this video to people that haven't fucking paid attention up till now, and remember that ultimately there are always only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.